This is Whiskey Whereabouts. I'm Tim, and this is the fourth and final group of new whiskeys competing in MALT Madness 2025. We've got Cask Strength Special Release Talisker. We've got 55% Lagg. We've got Bunnahabhain 12-year. And we've got whiskeys from Lindores Abbey and Royal Lochnagar. Only one is moving on. Let's figure out which. My whiskey journey has taken me to Scotland and back. I've explored whiskey education, tastings, and distilleries from Isla to Speyside. And now my journey continues here, with you, on Whiskey Whereabouts. So this is the fourth week, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but if you just stumbled on this one, I took the top 20 whiskey samples out of this 2024 Whiskey Advent Calendar. I separated them into 4 groups of 5, and we've done blind tastings of each of those. Now the final 5, the 4th group. I've declared a winner for each of the groups, and they've advanced to the final 4 flight. Next week, we'll have the 4 winners, and we will crown the champion of MALT Madness 2025. And one of the whiskeys in this glass is going to move on to that final 4 flight and get a chance to go for the win. So let's see what we have in this, the final group, the Badger group. It's a Talisker special release from 2023, not last year. This one was the Wild Explorador. It's not an age statement Talisker at Cask Strength 59.7%. And it was bourbon matured and then finished in 3 types of port casks: white, tawny, and ruby. Next up, at the 8th seed, a whiskey you may be familiar with, Bunnahabhain 12-year. It's 46.3% bourbon and sherry matured, unpeated whiskey. Next, we have the 12th seed overall in the tournament. It's Royal Lochnagar 12-year. It's only 40% ABV whiskey. It was matured in refill hogsheads. And it is a whiskey that primarily from this distillery goes into Johnny Walker. The 13th seed overall in the tournament, Lagg Corriecravie, this 55% non-age statement whiskey. There's bourbon matured and it was finished in Oloroso hogsheads for 6 months. This is peated whiskey from Arran. And the final whiskey in this flight is the final whiskey in the field this year. It's Lowland Whiskey, Lindores Abbey, the 1494. This is not an age statement, 46%, very well presented whiskey that was matured in bourbon, sherry, and red wine barriques. So our whiskeys have been poured in the blue glasses and placed randomly. I do not know which one is which. You will know. I always start on this side of the flight. I will make my way through the whiskeys. I will rank them on nose, palate, and finish, and then I will rank the whiskeys overall and declare the winner of the Badger group and the final whiskey to move on to the final 4. So starting over here with the nose on whiskey number 1. Pretty rich nose. It's pretty coastal. It's pretty salty sea salt. That's what I mean by that. We're getting a pretty subtle, it's not like a raging campfire. This is not, earlier in the tournament we had Lagavulin 8-year. It's not that experience. But that peat element is present here, and there's a nice sweetness to it. There's a leatheriness to it, almost a mineral quality as well. Vanilla toffee, cherry, red fruit coming off of that whiskey. Here we go, whiskey number 2. Not a huge nose here, especially after this one. This one, whiskey number 1's packing much more of a punch. We do have a couple Cask Strength or near Cask Strength whiskeys in the flight, not only one. This one has a confectionery sweetness almost. There's some vanilla. And there is earthy kind of organic element to this whiskey. It really offsets the sweetness. Not a huge, but there's some depth to this one. Whiskey number 3's nose now. Now we're getting some more of the smoke. But here we're getting smoked meat. That is jumping out of this glass. Bacon. It's rich, it's savory, there's a dark chocolate to it. Pretty big nose, little heat here. I'm getting a little bit saltiness again. That chocolate, that meat sort of savory element is so powerful. Whiskey number 4's nose. Yeah, this one's pretty faint. Especially after this. Stone fruit, to say peachy, sweet, pretty light. It's not that hot. Barley, maybe a little cereal on that one. It's pretty nice. Whiskey number 5's nose now. That's a very nice nose. Got that chocolate, that sherry kind of condensed into that chocolate, some of that sherry baked spice. There's a little saltiness to it. Not super hot. It's richer than these two. Yeah, as you sit with it, the sherry kind of, you acclimate to it and you get a nice little vanilla kind of foundation underneath. pretty likely bourbon and sherry matured whiskey. So I'm ready to rank the noses on these whiskeys. I'm going to start with the weakest of the noses and work my way up to the best. And so the weakest nose in the group is going to be this nose here, whiskey number 4. It's not bad. It's not big, but it's not bad. Then I'm going to say whiskey number 2. Then, pretty close call here. I am going to say whiskey number 3. This is a very nice nose. These bigger peated sort of noses were, this whiskey really can't keep up with this. I'm going to say 1, and then I'm going to say 3 is the best nose. Onto the palates, whiskey number 1. So this is a pretty hot whiskey. If I were sipping this whiskey, I'd probably want a little bit of water. The heat is coming on pretty strong. It's giving that numbing effect. I still have it on the tongue. Flavors are good, and there's a nice sort of dynamic. A lot of follow through from the nose, but it's giving you like cascade as you hold it, which is nice to see different kind of angles. Getting a lot of that sort of cherry kind of fruit, sweetness first. It's giving way to the more vanilla buttery kind of butterscotchy kind of sweetness. There's not a lot of smoke on the palate, but what is there is sort of a little bit of a just a coating. Whiskey number 2 now. So mouthfeel following this is pretty weak and diminished. The flavor's pretty rich. Again, it's kind of butterscotchy, really kind of rich, kind of sweet, more than just that sort of basic kind of vanilla cream that we expect. And it has something else. There's a little bit of cask, a little bit of oak on it, on the palate, but there is something else, something drier, something more tart, not sour, but like a berry. It's nice. That element is nice. It's nice and offsetting. Not the most complicated palate, but it's got something else to cut through that sweetness. Very sippable whiskey. Whiskey number 3 now. Gotta say I'm a little disappointed with the palate here on whiskey number 3. It's not bad. It had such a savory kind of element. I was bracing myself for that. Like a Kalila or something like that, that rich grilled meat taste. I'm getting sweetness. I'm getting a lot of sort of leather, really oiled, sort of new leather. It is hot. It's hotter than this. It doesn't feel as hot as this one. On the palate, whiskey number 4. Weakest mouthfeel here so far. Very sweet. Vanilla icing, frosting sweet, bordering on candy corn, Halloween. It has that sort of really rich, really sweet, dense, desserty quality. It needs a fruit element, I think, to cut it, and it's kind of drowning whatever's there. Maybe a dash of the cask. Whiskey number 5. What a huge jump from whiskey number 4 to whiskey number 5. This is a very, very good whiskey. I've got a really good idea which whiskey it is. The sweetness it's so much, has so much more depth when you compare it to something like this, which seems so thin in comparison. A rich kind of chocolate sweet. There's salt to offset kind of how sweet that influence can be. There is spice. There is the oak spice. There's the sherry spice. This is a pretty popular whiskey for a reason. I'm ready to rank the palates now from the weakest palate to the strongest. And I'm going to start again with whiskey number 4 is the weakest palate. Whiskey number 2. Whiskey number 5 again. So that has not changed. As good as this is. Big jump when we get here. I'm now going to say whiskey number 3 and then whiskey number 1 on the palate. That is a very big whiskey. On to the finishes, starting with whiskey number 1. Rich. It's not super sweet. Vanilla going on into almost chocolate now. What it's not is really smoky. Not getting a lot of the smoke sort of manifesting. I think the smokiest aspect of that whiskey was probably on the nose. And it has a wave that comes behind as the finish sort of develops. I still have that warmth here. You get kind of a plume, a little bit of the heat from that alcohol again. A little bit of water might help open up some of this flavor, might shave off a little bit of that heat. And the longer I sit with it, there's the smoke, there's the peat. It's ashy. After the sweet fades, as I continue to talk, I've got a little bit of that ash sort of right down the center of the tongue. Tiny bit of the cask, kind of just a little bit of the wood, a little bit of bitter. Nicely balanced. On to whiskey number 2. This is a nice finish. I think this is my favorite sort of phase of this whiskey. Cinnamon, sherry spice. There is a leathery component to it, almost a mintiness. A little bit of cask. Some vanilla behind it, but really clean, really crisp vanilla. Like vanilla bean, not like vanilla cream. A pretty medium finish. It doesn't stay with you, especially after this, but it is pretty rich in flavor. Whiskey number 3 now. Big flavors in this finish, and some sharp. There's a lot of cask here. It has a lot of tannin, a lot of oak. Here's that savory again. The promise of that nose is back. It is really meaty. And there's something, it's oily, and there's something salty and briny, and it's like meat in Worcestershire sauce. It's really not for every occasion, but this is a really like juicy and big, and it's throwing at a lot of savory, a lot of salt. It's plenty long and has plenty of heat. This whiskey is clearly one of the Cask Strength whiskeys, and so is this one. There's no question about it. Cask Strength or near Cask Strength. This one hasn't sort of presented as hot as this one until this finish. Whiskey number 4 now. After this, I have water between. I have to go again. I mean, this cannot stand up to this. A lot of the same. A lot of that sort of vanilla, kind of sweet, or really, really sweet, but it is balanced with some more nuance here in the finish. So the finish isn't spectacular. It doesn't last forever. I would probably have said medium if I hadn't just had this. Short to medium. I'm getting a lot more cask here with that sweetness on the finish, and I am getting a fruit. Maybe an orchard fruit that is offsetting. Not a lot of spice, not a lot of nuance, but I am getting some things. So I think I'm really enjoying so far. I haven't finished the flight yet, but the finishes, I feel like almost all of them, the way I'm talking about them, have kind of stepped up from the palate. The final finish of the final whiskey and the final flight before the championship flight. Whiskey number 5 on the finish now. This whiskey on the finish has the sort of richer sweetness, that real chocolate. It's that really sort of bourbon and sherry kind of chocolate, kind of sweet. The cask, the salt, the heavy elements. They're on the palate. All the sherry is in the sinus. You get a wave of the sherry fruit, that dry fruit, the sherry baking spices, the usual. And when the finish first hits, you get a wave of that up in the sinus. And as it develops out, you really zero in on the richer sweetness on the tongue, and those elements still kind of are just in the air, kind of above, still perceptible in your sinuses. It's a really nice mix, a really nice balance. So I'm ready to rank the finishes. I feel like, unfortunately, for some of the whiskeys that were behind in the rankings, the finishes were better, but the finishes in the other whiskeys also were better. So they, even though they kind of gave it their all, it was hard to make up ground here in the third stage. So it is going to go 4 to 5, as much as I like this whiskey. And we are down to the sort of big ABV whiskeys. Pretty close. this was pretty close. We've had some close calls this year. By design, tried to kind of concentrate the competitors so we would have tough calls. And this is a tough call with a lot of weight on it, I feel like. But I am going to say there's enough going on here in this finish in whiskey number 3 that I'm going to give it the top finish rank, so it's going to be 1 and then 3. So that means the committee has enough information from the first 3 stages to declare the winner, and I am going to now rank the whiskeys from weakest to strongest. Not a lot of surprises here if you've been keeping score through the first 3 stages. The weakest whiskey in this flight, and it wasn't a bad whiskey, is whiskey number 4. And this is that Royal Lochnagar, which makes sense. It's a 40% whiskey. Like I said, I really like the finish, and I like some of the flavor here. There's just not a lot of variety going on here, but this is not a bad whiskey. The second from the bottom whiskey is going to be whiskey number 2, obviously, and that's that Lindores Abbey. The third place whiskey is whiskey number 5, and it's Bunnahabhain 12. I think it's pretty obvious. This is a great whiskey and a great value, but it's not. It just can't go toe-to-toe with these high ABV whiskeys. That's obviously what this whiskey was. I would drink that all day. But it really was between these really big peated, high ABV whiskeys, and we know they're island whiskeys. And one of them won 2 categories. One of them was first place in 2 categories, so it's not a shock. But the winner of the Badger flight moving on to the final 4 flight, and the final competitor in the group of 4 next week is whiskey number 3, and it is that Lagg. And it's just so savory. It just has such a presence. This is obviously the Talisker, and, you know, it was a formidable adversary. I just did a series of videos with 2024's Diageo special releases, and they are hit or miss. If you haven't seen any of those, I'll put one up here just so you can check it out. But this one was pretty solid, especially for non-age statement version. Talisker playing well with the port casks. It's a little hot. I think if I'd been allowed to adjust with some water, who knows? But the winner is right here. It's the Lagg. So we do have an island whiskey represented in the final 4. Who will be crowned the champion of MALT Madness 2025? We're going to find out next week. So make sure you subscribe. You don't want to miss it. There's a big button right over here. I will see you next week.